all levels of government. I had the good fortune to work with folks who were working in the water and wastewater and water protection professions, as well as with industry and with business and with non-governmental organizations. So I really had an immersion in the environmental ecosystem. Today, I live in Washington Township, and I'm the chair of the Environmental Commission. I'm also the chair of our green team, and like many of you, active in various aspects of sustainability on the home front. I'm also a member of our Open Space Committee. So back to the meeting. We have a very full agenda this evening. And so I'd like to ask our speakers to be efficient with their time. And so we can respect everybody's time. We may have to hold off on some discussion items and questions until the roundtable at the end of the meeting. Okay, so first up, we all know that we want to stay connected with all of our colleagues in South Jersey. Joanne Contarino is going to give us a little bit about a wonderful means of connection, and she's going to give us a quick overview of the new TCS Discord. Joanne?
Awesome, thank you, Vicki. Cool, so my name's actually Joanna, just to make it clear. I'm from Elk Township in Gloucester County, so right near you. Yeah, so I just wanted to tell everyone about the Discord. For those that don't know what a Discord is, it's basically like a message board or just a large group chat that has channels to make everything a little bit more organized for how we communicate with one another. So you'll find that the link to join the TCS Discord was in the email, as well as, I believe it was in one other place. Oh, it'll be posted in the Zoom chat. Sean just posted it now. So in order for us to kind of stay connected, we wanted to make sure that there's a place for us to learn about grants, ask each other questions, especially questions to sustainability experts, bounce project ideas off of each other, promote events, and collaborate with other towns and environmental organizations around us. So currently, I think there's about 40 or so people in the Discord, so it'd be great to get a wider audience. We definitely have people from Sustainable Jersey and ANJEC, which are great partners for environmental commissions and green teams alike. Yeah, and that's really what it is. Happy to hear more about the agenda. Back to you, Vicki.
Thanks, Joanna.
You're welcome.
So now we're going to move on to some of our committee reports. We know that the path to avoiding climate change and the worst effects of it has to involve smart policies along the way. With that in mind, tonight's agenda is very much focused on government policy and advocacy. And Isla Vassallo, who is co-chair of our Government Policy and Relations Committee, is going to lead us through that path. Isla?
Thank you, Vicki. Good evening, everyone. As Vicki mentioned, my name is Isla Vassallo, and myself, along with Valerie Brown and Deb Hammond, work on the Government Policy and Relations Committee for TCS. We have an exciting lineup for tonight's policy portion of the agenda, so let's get started. I'm honored to introduce and will be talking with Burlington County Commissioner Linda Hynes. Ms. Hynes is a lifelong resident of Burlington County. She received her associate's degree from Burlington County College in criminal justice and her bachelor's degree in political science from Rutgers University, Camden. She attended Widener Law School in Delaware, where she earned her Juris Doctorate. Linda has been practicing law for over 20 years and has focused her career on advocating for women and children in the Burlington County court system. Linda also had the distinct honor of being appointed by the New Jersey Supreme Court to the Ethics Committee in Burlington County, where she investigated and prosecuted allegations of attorney misconduct for 8 years. Linda has a passion for public service, serving 5 years on the Board of Education in her hometown of Westampton, and she was next elected to the Westampton Township Committee in 2017 and served 2 years as deputy mayor. As a county commissioner, Linda serves as liaison to elections, prosecutor, resource conservation, and schools. Good evening, Ms. Hines, and welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here with all of you.
Great. So to start off, I wanted to find a little bit more out about Burlington County and the general resource conservation there. It's the biggest county in the state of New Jersey, covering over 800 miles. Can you provide some resource conservation statistics for Burlington, like preserved farmland, open space, miles of hiking trails, things like that?
Absolutely. I would love to brag about Burlington County. So we have 204 miles of trails in our county. We have 13 county parks. That's 100,000 acres of developed parklands. And we have marked 3,500 acres for future parkland development. We maintain 7 museums and galleries, 3 regional trail projects. We have an extremely active open space preservation program. So when municipalities find a piece of property within their district that they feel should be preserved, we partner with them so they're able to preserve that for open space. But we are especially proud of our farmland preservation program. So let me just brag a little bit. So we are #1 in the state in total acreage of preserved farmland. We're second in the state for the total number of farms preserved. I think this one is my favorite. We are #7 in the nation. So that's all of the nation. Burlington County is 7th for total farmland acreage preservation. And we are the oldest preserved farmland preservation program in the state. So I am very proud of those statistics. And just before we jump to the next question, I'm very honored to be presenting with Commissioner Jeff Nash, such a seasoned public official. I have been on the job as a commissioner for 15 months. So I have a little less service than him, but I would say what a 15 months it's been. So if we're going, I think I get a little couple, it's almost like dog years, but very, very honored just to be presenting with him.
Okay, well, we know that open space preservation and things like regenerative farming are very important. We're learning as it comes to climate change. So that's wonderful things to hear in terms of open space preservation. So I'm on the Evesham Environmental Commission, and we had the pleasure of your attendance at our March meeting. And you told us about a new initiative that you're spearheading called Equity in the Outdoors. Can you tell us a little more about that?
I would love to. Last summer, I attended a seminar held by the Pinelands Preservation Alliance, and it was an African-American environmentalist and his journey out of the inner city to become a wildlife refuge conservist. And his story was just so captivating. And it was a time when all of us are really taking a very hard and difficult look at systemic racism. So I started doing my own research and found that the users of our county parks do not resemble what the diversity of our county is. I changed forever. I'm going to promote this book, Black Faces, White Spaces. It will change your life. So I asked my resource conservation department to really, let's look at that. So let's look at access. So how do we get those minority communities to our county parks? So we're taking a look at our transportation system. We're having listening sessions, which require very uncomfortable, awkward conversations, but they're necessary. We are having events. We just opened our brand new park, which is Willingboro Lakes, which is absolutely spectacular if you haven't been. And we're working with Willingboro leadership because we're trying to ascertain how we can best serve the community to make sure that our natural resources are available to all. Burlington County created a few months ago the first ever County Diversity and Equality Task Force. So I have put this issue on their horizon, and we are partnering with our departments to take a look at that. And sometimes it's simple as just the messaging. When one of our employees at the Resource Conservation was putting together some PR work, she was going through the old county stock photos. And it was absolutely astounding that not one of those photos shows a family of color enjoying our county parks. Unacceptable. So it's just simply something as easy as changing the messaging. We're flipping it all upside down. So stay tuned, and anyone with ideas, I'm trying to attend and talk with anyone who has ideas on this topic, but it's something that now when we are planning anything in resource conservation, we always check off sustainability. And now we're checking off this new box, which is equity in the outdoors. Is this serving all of the residents? So it's something that I'm hopeful to make some progress. Am I going to solve the problem? Absolutely not. But I'm hoping to at least begin those conversations during my tenure so we can really start to move the needle.
Oh, that sounds really good. And my TCS colleague Patrick just put a link to that book in our chat, so people can find that.
I get
there.
no money off this. I get no royalties off the promotion. It will change your life.
Okay. And I would say it's fair to say that we're all looking forward to spring this year. So with the weather getting warmer, do you expect to see more spotted lanternflies than in the previous 2 years? And what, if anything, can residents do about that?
So I have become known throughout the county as the bug lady, which is not the nicest. I'm trying to flip it to the ladybug, but I have been talking everywhere and anywhere about spotted lanternflies and scraping the egg casings. These despicable little insects that plagued us before are going to become even more of a problem. I don't think anyone is really grasped the problem that they are going to be. So the county, we have started our Beat the Bug campaign, because every campaign needs a catchy title. And we have been promoting on ABC News, KYW News Radio, making videos about how easy it is to just, while you're on your walk, while you take your children to the playground, to spot, because everyone thinks they're these big cocoons hanging out of the tree, and they say, I didn't see any. And you would never know what they were. They look like they're a part of the tree. They're very conspicuous. You would not see them. So every Saturday, the county has held scraping Saturdays. What else would you want to do on a Saturday morning than come out and scrape some egg casings? But we've been doing that. We've been giving service credit hours to all of our Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts, or children making their confirmation or bar mitzvah that need these service credit hours. So I'm proud to report that we do have a form on the parks website, and we ask that if you scrape these egg casings, you actually report to us where you scraped, so we know not to focus our efforts, and about how many egg casings. Now, most people don't report. They're out there just scraping as they're taking their dog for a walk or something. But as of Thursday, we have surpassed 200,000 estimated spotted lanternflies that the volunteers in Burlington County have scraped. So again, I'm even going out to residents' house to say, I think these are in my tree, and I've been driving around the county, even just walking up and showing them that it is or is not one. But we are asking everyone, and I think really that the support we've had from the community is everyone's on board with this. Because if nothing, they love to feast on hops and grapevines. So those that like to enjoy a glass of wine or a beer, you have a vested interest in making sure you get out there and scrape these little despicable insects.
Okay, that's great. And it sounds like your campaign is off to an extremely good start with that many egg scrapings. I personally have to get out there and do that. So, okay, I'm going to switch a little bit from resource conservation to more policy related question. But as most of us know, the state's new stormwater management rules went into effect at the beginning of March. So do these rules have any impact at the county level? And if so, how?
So they certainly do. So in Burlington County, our county planning board is actually the review agency for our stormwater management practices. So certainly the municipalities all submitted, almost all of them now have officially submitted their new plans, which have been accepted. The new rules, again, the county engineer will be the most impacted by the new stormwater management rules with regard to his road projects. We feel in park development, we must also comply with the new rules. However, we are in a much better position to incorporate green infrastructure into a park or a trail design, because that's our natural tendency anyway. So certainly it will be impactful, but at resource conservation, we feel that it's something that we've always been striving for anyway. And so I am not roads, so that is another liaison. So I didn't want to step over toes to go to our county engineer, but I was assured that Joe Brickley, our county engineer, is well versed in the new stormwater management rules, and it will be making the appropriate adjustments.
Great, thank you for that information. From a sustainability perspective, what ways do you see Burlington County embracing sustainability at the county level? And in addition to the recycling that is already done?
So everything in the Resource Conservation Department is done with an eye towards sustainability. Some of our new projects that are happening this year, I'm excited to tell you about. So we just applied for a very exciting new grant with the New Jersey American Water Grant, and basically we'll be able to turn the water fountains at some of our county parks into water bottle refilling stations. And actually, I met with a third grade class who wrote to me and they had some ideas, and that was one of them. And so actually, we are going to name the project after this third grade class that has received a certificate. But that's something that's very exciting. We're going to start with a handful of county parks and see how it goes, and then hopefully spread from there. Also, very exciting news. The county was approached by a few local Starbucks franchises who offered their coffee grounds for our composting at the Agricultural Center in Morristown. And so I looked a little into this because it came out to me, well, apparently this is a national thing that Starbucks does, that they will even bag up coffee grounds for residents who have composting. So we are trying to take that further. We're looking at other composting areas in the county. We plan on making and promoting videos for residents about composting. Starbucks is helping us with that, and they're on board completely. So if you've never looked into it, it's something that they came to us, and it seems like it's just a wonderful partnership. And another exciting something just came up. I was approached by 2 Girl Scouts that are going for their Silver Award, and their project is pizza box recycling. So they have actually partnered with local farmers who are going to be, it always bothers me that the pizza boxes go into the trash and not recycling. So the county, I heard about this, I met with the girls, and now we are accepting the pizza boxes at some of our locations. And then we used our network of farmers who are going to be accepting them. And that has been sparking a lot of conversation with our recycling department. So hopefully, I don't want Camden to scoop me, I'm just kidding. But we have some exciting ideas that we're trying to look into with regard to pizza box recycling. And finally, just another thing I'm proud about is we're changing all of our aluminum signs throughout the county as we change to the Board of County Commissioners instead of freeholder to 100% recycled e-waste and textile waste material called E-Straight. So that's something that started with our farmland preservation signs, and now the county has taken on, and so we're starting to use that material in all of our signs.
That's great. And I think we're close to wrapping up our time here, but a real quick final question is, at our last TCS general meeting, we had a virtual tour of Camden County's Office of Sustainability. And could you see Burlington County creating a similar office or role?
I surely can. And we are actually in the process of updating our open space preservation program, as well as some other, really taking a whole overhaul of our resource conservation department. That is something that I certainly would like to see. As I said, everything that we do, every park, every trail, every project in Burlington County, we do have an eye on sustainability, but it would certainly be nice to have someone filling that role. And while budgets are always an issue, but there's certainly ways I think that we can make that happen. It may not be a short-term plan, but it is something in the long-term vision for Burlington County.
Well, I just wanted to thank you again so much for your time this evening, Commissioner Hines. It's great to hear all the initiatives that are in progress in the County of Burlington, and I hope you'll come back to give us updates in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Okay. And now let's bring on Sean Moen to expand on the advocacy conversation with Jeff from Winslow Township.
Thanks, Isla. Great conversation with Commissioner Hines there. Global warming wasn't scary enough. When we start talking about the lanternflies going after our beer, like that's going to give us more sleep at night. So really important stuff. For those of you that have been with us in the past, you know that everybody's welcome at Tri-County Sustainability, and sticking with tonight's theme of policy and governance. You might recall at our last meeting, we gave the forum to college students who had written op-eds in support of the proposed Glassboro-Camden rail line. And so sticking with that theme, here's Jeff from Winslow Township to give us an op-ed that he wrote that's actually been picked up by a number of statewide media organizations. Jeff?
Well, thank you, Sean. First, to the commissioner from Burlington County, Linda, that was an outstanding presentation. And I was taking notes as you were speaking. That was outstanding. I look forward to getting together with you to talk about some of the initiatives in the Burlington County Park system. As Sean mentioned, I did write an editorial in support of the GCL, and that stands for Gloucester-Camden Line. It is a project that has been talked about for almost 20 years, and it appears that it is now moving to the next stage, which is preliminary engineering. I was involved in this in 2005. At that time, there was a discussion about bringing a rail system to Gloucester to connect Camden City or Philadelphia to Rowan University in Glassboro. And when when you review the rail systems that existed in not only the Delaware Valley, but throughout the state of New Jersey, you look at Southeast Pennsylvania, and there is a spider web of rails that stretch throughout Southeast Pennsylvania through the SEPTA system. And that is the primary mode of transportation for most commuters going to and from Philadelphia or even to some of the suburbs. When you look at North Jersey and the PATH system, you see a spider web of rail systems that stretch throughout all of the North Jersey suburbs and reach into New York City. That is the primary means of transportation for many people. When you look at South Jersey and the spider web, there is no spider web in South Jersey. The rail is strictly a PATCO system, a one vein, and a hardly used New Jersey transit line that runs from 30th Street Station to Atlantic City. And that is a single track system, so it can never be a commuter train because you can't run two trains at one time on one track. So there was a push back in 2005 under the Corzine administration to take a hard look at whether there should be a rail system in southern New Jersey to complement the PATCO system. And at that time, they did what's called an alternatives analysis. An alternatives analysis would take a look both in engineering and in practicality, what is the best way to create a system if you were going to do so. And when that process started, I assumed that they would conclude that a line would run right down Route 42. Route 42, believe it or not, is the third most heavily congested traffic highway in the state of New Jersey, and that includes some of the highways that lead to New York City. And if you live or commute by way of Route 42, you can understand why that is a terrible problem. Secondly, the air quality in this region, there are 21 separate regions throughout the country where they measure air quality, and there are a host of different factors involved in that. Our region is ranked worst in the entire country for air quality. And that that includes Philadelphia, it includes Camden County, and stretches to some of the surrounding counties, including Burlington County. The air quality is just unacceptably horrible. And that's not only because of incineration, it's because of the highways that run to and from perpendicular and parallel throughout the Philadelphia region, and the prevailing winds blow from the Philadelphia region into southern New Jersey. And that is, and the fact that we don't have a rail system and getting people out of the cars is clearly just unacceptable. So when they did this alternatives analysis, I assumed it was going to run down Route 42. And what the engineers found through this analysis is that the most beneficial route would be on the existing Conrail right-of-way that cuts through some of the towns, because that would bring more new riders, people, not people moving from PATCO to a GCL line. It would bring more new riders to the system. It would take more people out of their cars. And to be quite frank, it would be a less expensive rail system to build. So that's what the alternative analysis decided. 16,000 riders based on this analysis would take the light rail line. So the next stage for this project would is preliminary engineering. And the SJTA, South Jersey Transportation Authority, has authorized $25 million to begin preliminary engineering. And what is really critical about the preliminary engineering process is that they identify the type of vehicle that would make up a light rail. Under the existing plan, it would be a diesel rail, which is what you see at the river line, and that is the standard technology today and at the time. But we are finding now that there are new exciting developments in light rail systems that could be either hydrogen or electric lines, and that they would run as efficiently as a diesel line. So my greatest hope is that when they explore the different options, that they would find something other than diesel to operate these trains. The timeline, there are several public hearings that the DRPA and the state have conducted. Those public hearings have been interesting because people have voiced some objection to it, but the benefits to the project and the reason that I have supported this project are really threefold. Number one, it is time for Gloucester County to get into the 21st century in terms of transportation opportunities for commuters. That means that there should be a rail system. We're never going to duplicate what's in Southeast Pennsylvania or even the PATH system, but we do need alternatives to taking our car to get to Philadelphia or to other places to get to work. Number two, the studies have shown that when these rail systems run through the towns, there is an economic benefit. They become economic engines for properties and businesses that surround the towns where the stations are. The studies have shown that. We have seen that in as a consequence of the River Line being built. And those are the primary reasons. We need to reduce our carbon footprint. We need to reverse the trend of making this region the most dangerous or one of the most dangerous regions for air quality in the country. And one way to do that will be by getting people out of their cars. And it is very interesting. The pandemic has been awful, as all of you know. It's been a nightmare. But the one consequence of this pandemic, with fewer people commuting to work, is that we have seen in the last year a measurable positive difference in the air quality in our region. And that just proves to us that it is the emissions from our vehicles, that Route 42 traffic, that is a major factor in contributing to the air quality issues that we are experiencing.
You know, this is such an environmentally focused crowd, and I think everybody gets that mass transit has a major role to play if we've got any chance of meeting the state's 80 by 50 mandate. It's just, you hit on two important ones. First was traffic on 42, and last week I had to take my 85-year-old mother to get vaccinated down at Rowan, and so we're coming from the Collingswood area, and it took us 50 minutes to get, 6 miles, 7 miles. And, as a guy who spent a lot of my adult life in New York, South Jersey is now like worse than the Long Island Expressway or the, Brooklyn Queens Expressway ever were. It's getting really bad with the traffic. We have to do something to alleviate this. The other piece is that you hear from some of the opponents is home values. And I kind of laugh because, again, going back to that New York thing, I used to take the railroad out to the Hamptons, and we're talking about like houses worth tens of millions of dollars that have train stations in them, right? Or even Metro North up through Westchester County and into Connecticut, where a lot of my hedge fund clients were. Those are towns like Rye and Scarsdale. we're talking about like multi-million-dollar residential houses. And even here, you look at towns like Haddonfield and Collingswood, those real estate markets are doing pretty darn well. And a big part of that is they have the mass transit option of the speed line. When I was in college, one summer I was taking classes at Penn, and the speed line in Collingswood is walkable for me. And I was not going to go to class in Penn. I was going to leave the region and go to school in another part of the country. But because I had access to that train, I stayed here in South Jersey. And I think that's a big part of it too, right? The talent. If we're going to educate these kids here, we want to keep them here because that's how, a community continues to thrive, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't want to age myself, but in my generation, people got in their cars and drove. Now, I was from New York too, so I took the subway everywhere. That was the way people got around. When they were building Patco back in the late 60s, there was objections to it. I take all the objections very, very seriously. People are concerned. If you live near a rail line, you would be concerned. You'd be concerned about crossings, about noise. These are issues that must be addressed during preliminary engineering, absolutely. And I take it seriously. But in my view, the overriding benefit to creating a rail system, both the economic benefits that you've mentioned, Sean, and the benefits to the towns are enormous. And these towns would be well served by these, and the residents of those towns will be well served by a rail system, as we have found in Collingswood and Haddon Township. If you live in those communities where there are two stops, those two towns have their property values have just exploded. You cannot even put a house on the market for a day without getting 10 offers over the asking price.
And
the lumberyard,
right? That's even before the pandemic.
Yeah, and it's sustained today. My daughter lives in Haddon Heights, and she's trying to find a house. She's trying to move to near the train station. She can't find a house there because the houses are just so expensive.
The country has more less houses on the market than realtors, the entire country. So
Ryan, we're going to ask you to stay muted for now. You can post any questions in the chat. Commissioner Nash, we did get one question that I do think is worth responding to. It's from Joel Hetzel, and it's related to the funding for this thing. And that is a big thing, right? We always have to be concerned for what's our debt situation going to be in the future. And Joe's question was, what dedicating funding has been obtained specifically for the GCL? So can you maybe talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, right now the South Jersey Transportation Authority is the primary funding source, and they have dedicated $25 million for preliminary engineering, which is the next stage. They do have the capacity to go to the next stage. They do believe that this is going to be a public-private partnership and perhaps run by New Jersey Transit at the end of the day. So this is a statewide effort. The governor and Senate President Steve Sweeney, both who have been very supportive of this project, have often said, and they are correct, that North Jersey has received, we all pay the funding for New Jersey Transit, the extra funding. Every New Jersey resident pays the same for statewide transportation, but the money has gone to the north. South Jersey has gotten the short end of the stick for transportation funding. It's not to blame prior administrations. It's just the fact that most of the population 2/3 of the population live above exit 7, but we still have not received our fair share. Senate President Sweeney has made it clear that it's time for South Jersey to get its fair share.
Okay. And so I know obviously this is an issue that is important to a lot of people, and there are strong feelings pro, and there are people are right to have their concerns on the other side. What is the best way to work with you in your office going forward?
Well, the project is going to be run through DRPA and SJTA. My sense is that they're going to hire a project manager through a competitive process, and the project manager will be the quarterback. The one thing that we have said from the onset, from the day we started with the alternatives analysis, is that public hearings and transparency is critical, because this is a very expensive project. If people are opposed to it, they have to be heard. And we have had over 100 public hearings since 2005. And I've been to many of them. Most recently, the ones have been online, and I've been listening to them. But the best way to do it is you can always communicate with me and my office. I answer my emails personally at my county.
What's your email address? Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's jeff.nash@camdencounty.com. And no one answers that for me. I tune in every day or two to respond to those questions, and I'm happy. And basically, I don't get involved in the day-to-day operations or the planning for this. I would pass that along to Mike Venuto, who's the chief engineer at the DRPA, and he's actively working. If they do hire a project manager, obviously there'll be a direct connection to whoever that is, whoever is assigned to the project during the preliminary engineering stages.
Okay, that's awesome. Thank you. I want to switch gears quickly, just because I wanted to hit on the office of the county's Office of Sustainability.
Mhm.
As Isla had mentioned in our last session, we did do a virtual tour of the Lakeland facility, and it's awesome. You know what Chris and Val are doing down there with the hydroponics and some really cutting edge stuff. Vineyards, the tool lending library, the environmental curriculum. Are there any lessons learned? Anything on the new on the horizon there? Is there anything? A big goal of Tri-County is to try and help replicate the model that's working in Camden County there, to try and help our fellow counties in Gloucester and Burlington move their sustainability offices along. Is there any lesson learned you'd like to share there?
Yeah, we're going to sit down with Burlington County because they have they have a lot of great ideas. I was taking notes, Linda, and what you're doing is great. You know, the Sustainability Office has been, it was formed about 5 years ago. We're lucky to have Chris be our executive director. He was the sustainability officer at the Philadelphia Zoo, and they do a lot of cool stuff there as well. And he brought that to Camden County. We are working with that office right now on a trail system known as the Link. The Link is a 32-mile trail that they're building from the Ben Franklin Bridge to Winslow Township. And it'll be a multi-use trail that will cut through 17 towns, beginning in Camden. And what's cool about starting at the Ben Franklin Bridge is that you can cross the bridge and get on the Manayunk Trail. So you can actually bike, if you have the strength, from Valley Forge to Winslow Township. And we are actively working on this. We're hoping that with the federal infrastructure bill that they're trying to form, we've been working with Congressman Norcross and Congressman Kim to get a dedicated amount of money to help fund the trail. But that sustainability office is working hand in hand with us to accomplish that trail. That is Camden County's big project right now.
That's awesome. And again, I'm sorry, I'm speeding through some of these. I want to make sure we hit on them. The next one, I just want to touch with you. Last month, or I guess it was earlier this month, you had announced that our planning for the microgrid to power the CCMUA is going to go forward, but going to look to renewables, including some very cool options, and not going to proceed with using the Covanta incinerator. And that was loud applause from everybody on the Tri-County side. That's awesome. Can you talk about what led to that decisioning?
For those who are not familiar with the microgrid, it's a resiliency operation that would provide power to Camden, emergency services, schools, hospitals, CCMUA, which is right next door, and to make sure that they are resilient if the grid ever fails in the area. It's an interesting, currently the Covanta, which operates the incinerator, operates a grid which draws 1 million gallons of water from the aquifer every day. And in turn, they produce electricity, which they sell to the grid. The microgrid is a new concept that a company called Compass is overseeing. And rather than using the trash plant to provide the electricity, the steam from the plant to provide electricity, they have figured out how to use renewable resources instead of the incineration to operate that microgrid. That is, once they figured that out, and the technology is more complicated than I'm articulating right now, that, if nothing else, symbolically, not using that incineration and the emissions from that incinerator is a great benefit to our community. I started off this conversation saying that our air quality is terrible. Well, incineration doesn't help that air quality.
Right.
And to have any project to benefits or to sustain the incinerator just didn't feel right. For environmentalists, it was a nightmare.
Did you hear our voices?
Your voices, my voices, every voice. I cringed when the project is so important, and creating that electric resiliency is such an important public policy issue, but it didn't feel right that we were using incineration to accomplish that public policy goal. And when they changed the ability to create the microgrid without incineration, everyone was very happy.
One of the things, there's a man in the mirror piece of this, I personally am responsible for creating a lot of tonnage of trash that goes out. And I'm happy when the DPW guys pick it up on Wednesday morning. It sucks that kids in Camden maybe, not getting we're getting the short end of the stick on that. So food waste reduction is a big piece, right? And so I don't know if, I know the county has had some starts to some projects related to food waste reduction, but what I'd like to offer to you is, on this call, you have a lot of folks that have some technical background that have already started to do some deep dive in some of the programs across our state related to municipal level composting and things like that. And to the extent you're willing, I'd say reach out to us. We'd love to help share the knowledge we have.
Yeah, I would be very open to having a meeting. If you wanted to help me, Sean, pull together some experts and figure out how we can advance composting in Camden County. I love what Linda's doing in Burlington County. That's a great opportunity. We were hoping that there was a compost facility being built in Gloucester City. That had been it's been on the books for way too long and still has not been accomplished. And now that with the recycling market dramatically changing, I am concerned that people are not going to be, or towns are not going to be encouraged recycling as they were, which was a financial benefit to the towns to keep the recycling materials out of the trash. But now that market has turned dramatically, and the price differential could be discouraging recycling, and that concerns me. Composting, of course, would be a great benefit to our community.
All right, that's awesome. I'm going to say thank you so much for joining us, Commissioner Nash. We have to jump to the next subject, but informative. Thank you very much. I'd say let's, to the extent you're willing, let's stay engaged. I think there's a lot of work we all have to do. It's going to take all of us. And thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody, for having me. I really appreciate this opportunity.
Thank you. And so again, everybody's welcome on the Tri-County Sustainabilities meetings. We didn't get to a lot of the chat just because we're a little rushed for time. We have a tight agenda. We have a roundtable discussion at the end of this, so everybody will have the chance to have an open microphone at the end. And so with that, I'm sorry I went over a little with that one. Isla, I'm going to turn it back to you.
Yep. Okay, thanks, Sean. Next, we have 3 students from the New Jersey Student Sustainability Coalition who are going to speak to us about their advocacy for the adoption of the New Jersey Green Amendment, which would amend Article 1 of the New Jersey Constitution to recognize the environmental rights of all people of New Jersey. So welcome Svan Mura, Margaret Beret, and Saya Pfeiffer.
They have to unmute
Great.
themselves.
Thank you, Isla. Just, can you allow me to share my screen? We have a presentation.
Yep, just give me 1 sec. And I'm sorry, who am I letting share?
This is
Me, Svan.
Svan.
Sorry.
Yeah, in the meantime, thank you for the great introduction, Isla. My name is Svan Mura. I am the campaign coordinator of NGSSC's branch of the Green Amendment campaign. along with Margaret, who is here. Hopefully, yes, I see you now. And Isla basically summed up very well, and we'll talk a little bit more about what exactly the Green Amendment is, and how you can get involved in helping to push for it, because there definitely is a lot that many of you could do to help further the Green Amendment substantially. If Saya and Margaret want to introduce themselves next.
Sure, my name is Margaret. I am the other campaign co-coordinator at New Jersey Student Sustainability Coalition for a Green Amendment. And Svan and I and Saya are working all together to enact a Green Amendment here in New Jersey. And we'll learn more about what that actually is during our presentation. And Saya?
Yeah, hi, my name is Saya. I am the Outreach and Goals Coordinator for the New Jersey Student Sustainability branch of the Green Amendment campaign, and we're so happy to be here today. So thank you for having us. We're really excited to share what we've been doing and, let you guys know how you can involve. So.
Saya, maybe turn off your camera. You are a little bit laggy in the audio.
Yeah, sorry about that. I just did. I think that tends to be an issue with my computer. I apologize. Okay, so today, Svan, Margaret, and I will just be talking briefly about the Green Amendment, what it is, why we need it, and what exactly our campaign looks like. So we'll just be going over the basics, essentially. So first, it's important to recognize the problem that the Green Amendment will be addressing. And as I think we're all aware, communities around New Jersey are suffering from contaminated air, polluted water, climate change, and the effects of entities and corporations polluting the air and our water. And low income and minority communities particularly are impacted by these issues. And unfortunately, right now, these communities don't have the legal leverage to protect themselves or hold these entities accountable for the pollution and the problems that they're causing. So as much as we believe we all have the right to clean air and clean drinking water and a safe environment, these rights, which are really human rights, aren't codified in our New Jersey Bill of Rights. And that means that they're not on the same level as some of the other rights in our state legislature. So what exactly is the Green Amendment? Well, the Green Amendment is very simple. It's just a constitutional amendment to the New Jersey Bill of Rights, which protects the right to clean air, pure water, and a stable and healthy climate and a healthy environment. And really what it does is it puts these environmental rights, which are, as we've established, human rights that all of us deserve to have, on par with other rights that we currently have in the Bill of Rights.
Yeah, so great. Brief explanation from Saya. This is the actual text of what the New Jersey Green Amendment would look like. So there's other versions in other states, Pennsylvania and Montana, that have their own green amendments, but this is what the New Jersey one would look like. And for the interest of time, I won't go in depth into the language and all the legal ramifications of what this would mean, but just you can see with all of that red bolded text that even though it's really short, anyone who wants to know what we're campaigning for can read it in a couple of seconds. There is a lot of really important language packed into there. So you have present and future generations. Obviously, it's important. The organization really fighting for this and leading the charge, Green Amendments for the Generations, has that in their name for a reason. Really, that make sure that the government thinks long-term, which we all know is important for climate change and for other cumulative environmental issues. As young people, we definitely really care about this clause. Gives us a lot more legal recognition that we don't currently have right now. You have a lot of environmental justice language in there, benefit of all people, every person has the right, which really attacks sacrifice zones on a constitutional level. You have here the state shall serve as trustee of these resources. That trust language establishes a whole new relationship between the people, the government, and the environment, in which really natural resources and clean air, pure water, those are all assets. The government becomes a trustee to the people who are beneficiaries, and that legal relationship, which has a lot of effects, but I won't explain them all today, really makes the Green Amendment work and brings a lot of protective legal precedent that helps to protect environmental rights into the equation when it's put on a constitutional level. And on property action, there's a lot of very important language packed into this very, very short amendment. And that's why really we think it is such an important solution to the environmental issues we're facing. So now that we have the solution, we've talked about what it is, how do we actually get it passed? So really every state has their own wacky way of getting a constitution passed, and New Jersey is no different. We have two different ways that you can amend the state constitution. The first one is shorter. It takes just 1 year. So you need to have a supermajority or a 60% majority vote yes from both the state Senate and the state Assembly. And then after you get that legislative approval, then it goes onto the ballot, and you need the majority of New Jersey voters to vote yes on that. Number two takes longer, it takes 2 years, and that's what happens when you fall short of that supermajority, but you still have a simple majority, 50% or more, voting yes. So if you have between 50 and 60%, then it has to basically go back in the queue. You have to start the whole process over and do it twice in a row, and it goes onto the ballot. So that is how New York just passed their Green Amendment. So for the second time, their legislators, both chambers, voted yes on their Green Amendment bill, and New York voters will be voting on their Green Amendment very soon this November. So hopefully we can do it faster than New York. We can be better than them and do it in only 1 year. That's the hope. And 1 year is our campaign goal. We really want to have it on the ballot this coming November.
Great. So now we have the issue, we have our proposed solution, the Green Amendment, and now we know how we can get it passed here specifically in New Jersey. So now how do us three students and all of you fit into this? Well, here's our campaign plan. So we are planning to leverage NJSC's, the New Jersey Student Sustainability Coalition's unique structure to mobilize students across the state. And just a quick little injection here. You guys might not all know, you probably don't know, what our unique structure actually is. So the coalition is basically where students of any age, either high school or college, come together. Our main form of communications are Slack, and we have a number of campaigns, a number of teams, and basically just to uplift youth voices here in New Jersey for sustainable causes. So we're going to use that structure because it's very spread out all across the state. We have a lot of different students to, first of all, lobby the legislators. And that is because legislators are the targets for this. They have the power, as you saw in the last slide, to say yes or no to the Green Amendment. Secondly, we're having them pass town resolutions. And that is meant to support tactic number one, lobbying. And this is also because sometimes legislators are against the Green Amendment cause because they didn't think that their constituents would actually support it, or they didn't even care. Well, local resolutions show them that constituents do support it. They really do support it. They're working hard to get this passed, and it encourages them, greatly encourages them to, when the time comes, to co-sponsor or to vote yes. So secondly, working with our partners across the state, I'll explain this next, Green Amendment for the generations and local groups and individuals. And this also includes intergenerational partners. So many of you all might know what Green Amendments for the Generation actually is. So that is the main hub or the starting organization for the Green Amendment. Maya was the creator. She was the creator of the Green Amendment, and that was the movement she started for that cause. And the reason that we got involved was because they had a statewide training for different leaders who were interested in the Green Amendment. And that kind of formed somewhat of a coalition, a statewide coalition for intergenerational partners all across the state. And so we're connected with them. It's not just something that ANJEC is working towards, it's something that a whole movement across the state, across environmental groups, across interdisciplinary lines is working for. And we want that to be known that it's not just us, it's a whole movement. Also, like almost nationally, as Savon said, New York is just passing that as well. So here's the movement's goal as a whole. We're aligning with their values, we're not making this ourselves. So we want to put pressures on legislators, specifically for us in New Jersey, to pass the Green Amendment in both houses by August. So very clearly, this is a short timeline. We are almost in April. I think it's still March, pretty bad with the time. So we only have a few months left. This is a very short timeline, and that's why we need your help now. And that's why we're running such an aggressive campaign. Like we had on the last slide, like we emphasized in the last slide, we want to get the question on this ballot this year. That means passing it with 60% majority in both houses. And that means we need all the help we can get.
Okay, so how does everyone here on this call fit into this? Well, a lot of you were probably thinking in the last slide when we were emphasizing really our youth movement, how does this apply to us? Many people in Tri-County sustainability are obviously not young people. Well, this slide here kind of gives you the rundown of what the situation is in your area, and you can see that there is a lot of opportunity here, whether or not you're a young person, especially for many of you who I know are involved in whether it be your county or your town local governments, which really have a lot of power in that second primary tactic that Margaret mentioned, which was passing local resolutions. So of all the counties that your organization represents, Gloucester, Camden, Burlington, there's no resolutions passed in any town or county level, meaning that all those towns and all those counties have the opportunity to go and to pass resolutions and to show that they support this. So there's a lot of open space for improvement and for action to be taken there. And right now, I think only Essex County has passed a Green Amendment resolution, only a handful of towns. So you would be showing that you really are a leader in environmental rights if any town or county is to pass a Green Amendment resolution. In terms of lobbying the legislator, that first priority tactic, I'm not going to run through again in the interest of time every single one of these districts, but if you know your legislative district, you can take a quick look and see what these means. CS stands for co-sponsor. Obviously, we want to be targeting the people who are not co-sponsors the most in order to get them to co-sponsor, because that makes it more likely for these to be put up to a vote and for obviously this to get 60% of the chambers to vote yes. And especially I want to highlight these red districts where I've changed the color to red. So that's District 3, 8, and 9, because those districts, 8 and 9, we have no co-sponsors at all, meaning if you're in one of those districts, then you have a lot of power and a lot of opportunity. Again, want to emphasize that wherever you have nothing, it's not a bad thing. It means there's a lot of opportunity and a lot of room to improve in this area. So yeah, District 8 and 9, no co-sponsors. All of those legislators would be great to have on as co-sponsors. So you have 3 people in that area to lobby. District 6, also no co-sponsors, though Districts 8 and 9, slightly higher priority because I know at least one of them, I think, has Republicans in that area. So if you have a Republican legislator who you think is amenable to the Green Amendment, that's really important because we really want this to be a bipartisan bill. It already is to some degree, but we do want more Republicans on our side. And then District 3 is very, very important because that is Sweeney's district, and Sweeney has the power to say yes or no to whether this bill in the Senate gets to be voted on at all. So we think of the legislators as the gatekeepers to whether or not New Jersey voters get to decide. Well, Sweeney is the gatekeeper to that legislator, whether or not they get to decide. So District 3 is incredibly important and also has no co-sponsors, but any of those legislators co-sponsoring the Green Amendment will mean a lot to the movement in general and especially to Sweeney, who we need not to co-sponsor necessarily, but definitely to support us to the degree where he agrees to put this up to a vote.
Great. So we didn't just come here to inform you all about this. Well, that is a certain extent to it. We want you all to get involved. So no matter your legislative district, as we just went through, we want you to be a part of this campaign or the Green Amendment movement as a whole. So we have our student petition, which you can share with, obviously, I don't think most of you are students, but share with your kids, share with your cousins, your nieces, your nephews, your friends, whoever you have. Please share this with them. This is a really great way for us to show legislators that we have real constituents, real people, real students that really care about this bill. And then secondly, the tiny CC link is really probably one of the best ways you can easily get involved. It's an easy way basically to do a low commitment lobbying action. It's an automatic email. You can put in your name, your address. I'm sure most of you have done those kind of things before. And it actually gets a real response. Probably wasn't just because of me, but I know I sent this to a few different people in my district, and my Republican legislator, she actually ended up co-sponsoring the Green Amendment bill, where we usually thought that she wasn't very amendable to it. So by just emailing your legislators here, and that's tiny CC link /GA_emails, really can make a huge difference in the big picture. So please share those two links with anyone.
Thanks so very much. We'll be able to post all of this information for all the participants in this session, and it'll be available to everybody. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Fawn and Margaret and Saya. Thanks a lot. Next, we're going to be speaking with Joseph Russell, who will fill us in on his work for the Glassboro-Camden line. Joseph?
Hello, how are you? Thanks so much to Sean for inviting me to speak at this meeting. Yeah, so my name is Joseph Russell, and I've been an environmentalist since I was in the environmental club in middle school in the 90s. I've worked on bicycle and pedestrian safety issues with my town's green team in the past, but this is my first time at a tri-county sustainability meeting, so I'm excited to be here. It's no overstatement to say that I love trains. I've been a PATCO rider since high school. I grew up in South Jersey, and honestly, it's the reason that I still live here. Beyond PATCO, I love Riverline, Amtrak, SEPTA, subways, buses, basically any form of public transit. Lately, I've been advocating for popular support for the Glassboro-Camden line through a group created in December called Yes to the GCL. As of today, we have hundreds of members who are excited about the possibility of this line finally getting built. I know it's been talked about for quite a long time. We are excited for the improvement this line will make to the lives of workers and students, the economic boost that it will give to businesses and institutions, the enriched vitality of the historic towns located along the line, and for the greater transportation connectivity it'll provide for the region. Most importantly, we're excited for the impact this line will make on the environmental goal of taking cars off the road and reducing the amount of carbon dioxide emitted into the atmosphere. Super, super excited for that possibility. This is an exciting movement that I'm proud to be a part of, but I just want to say that although I started the group when a couple people kind of suggested that we get it started, it was really a it was not by Paige Bathurst, who is also here today, that she wrote that really got it started. And so I say we thanks to student activists for kicking us older people in butt to get started with advocating for a better future. I was really happy to see someone other than myself being noisy in a good way about public transit. So yeah, I mean, despite the road-centric policies that shaped our region's transportation system in the 20th century, there's clearly a constituency of people in South Jersey who want to see train services come back to our area. I mean, you know, it's not revolutionary when we had trains like 70 years ago, and a lot of these towns owe their existence to the train line. So we see it as restoring a legacy of something that is really American and local heritage in the area. So, you know, just end by saying, if you're one of those people, please join the group, join our group at yes2gcl.com. Tell your friends, buy a lawn sign, write a letter to the editor, call your state assembly people and senator, just spread the word among your friends, family, network of fellow environmentalists. This project is, this project is finally looking like it'll happen. That is it for me for now. Thanks so much for hosting again. I think Paige is gonna pop up just to say a couple words.
Yeah, hey guys, I was here last month, so I won't bore you guys again with hearing my voice for a long time, but I'm gonna drop a link. I just dropped it, but I'll drop the link again to our yard signs. So we're selling them for $5. super easy. You just Venmo me, PayPal me, Zelle's the thing now. I can't even keep up with all this, and I'm like 19 years old, so it's crazy. But if you just send me the money, I will bring it to you. Super easy. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter. We just have a website that's getting up and running. So I think we saw a couple, John, one of our members, dropped a link to our Facebook group, and I'll just drop some links. But thank you guys so much for having us, and we're super excited to get this going soon. So thanks, guys.
Thank you very much, Joseph and Paige. Appreciate it. Next, we have Lorraine Prince, who is a longtime advocate for enhanced stormwater management and will be speaking about her experience as a local advocate. Lorraine?
Yeah, hi. Thank you very much. I'm being mindful of the time. I'm going to read my thoughts about the matter of stormwater. It helps me to be more concise, and I know we need to save some time. So forgive me for not being spontaneous in my talking. I'm going to read this. I'll try to read with emotion. Okay, I'm Lorraine Prince. I'm with Sustainable Collingswood Green Team, and I'm also the lead watchdog for the Newton Creek Watershed Association. Collingswood, like many towns in this part of Camden County, is an older built out town with not much development, big development going on. Stormwater is a main concern right now. As you know, it's the reason for a lot of local flooding and pollutants washing into local waterways. However, it wasn't until three things happened that stormwater became a big topic in my area. Number one is that Camden County started a huge project to dredge and stop the erosion and pollution at Newton Lake. And number two, recent weather events, extreme weather events, have made street and basement flooding even more painfully evident to local residents. And three, the state has required all municipalities to adopt new stormwater rules and to add an ordinance that requires the use of green stormwater infrastructure. So clearly stormwater management is now sexy, and therefore it's easy to advocate for, at least for me. For me, this current attention on stormwater has redirected my efforts away from the lake shoreline and into the realm of local lawmaking and municipal environmental housekeeping. So New Jersey requires that each municipality is to complete forms and reports that measure things such as the number of storm drains and how many streets or how often streets are swept, and etc. You may have heard about the Stormwater Management Plan, Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan, and the all-important MS4 annual report. These are all things that all towns have to comply with.
Just listen to Nate.
So I discovered that it's fairly easy to get your hands on information. Towns post these reports online, and if they don't, there's always Oprah, which is something you can do online. You can request documents online. You don't have to go to your town hall necessarily. To see local laws, usually a town has its ordinances available online too. Usually, if the town subscribes to it, it would be ecode360.com. So these days, I'm advocating for minor development rules to be added to the new stormwater ordinance that all towns were required to adopt in early March. Most towns adopted the plain vanilla ordinance recommended by the state, which set requirements for green stormwater infrastructure to be used for major developments. But towns like Collingswood don't have major development. Nevertheless, when it rains really hard, as it's wont to do these days, there's plenty of impervious surface on residential properties for stormwater to rush away from and create havoc. So for my town, there's not much point to an ordinance that regulates stormwater management only for major development. The obvious truth is the problem with stormwater is impervious surfaces. Whether big or small, it all adds up, and it's that simple. So who regulates the impervious surfaces in our towns? It's the planning and the zoning board. And knowing that they're the ones who grant the exceptions known as variances to property owners to allow them to exceed zoned impervious surface rules, I figured I'd start there, here in my own town. So through online and Oprah research, I discovered our zoning board had not turned down any request to increase impervious surface during the 2.5-year period of my study. The average amount of impervious surface for each request put those properties approximately 10% over the amount originally designated for their zones. I imagine a lot of towns in Camden County that are similar to Collingswood are probably facing the same thing. There's a lot more impervious surface than was originally planned for in the zoning regulations. The amount of added stormwater runoff is considerable. And the thing is, once property is covered over, the water just keeps running off because impervious surface is actually forever. So to me, it seemed reasonable to assume my study was not an aberration and that I was sure the increase in impervious surface had been happening for years. So I made a report and I presented it to the zoning board. And it wasn't because I was anti-zoning, it was more like an awareness thing. In fact, I've presented this particular presentation that I have to various boards in several towns that are in the area. And I know the conclusions from my presentation surprised many of them, that granting small increases adds up. But they took their apparent laxity well, and I hope that they're more careful now. But don't forget, I'm a watchdog. I'm here in Collingswood. I keep my eye on everything that's happening in the Newton Creek Watershed Association. And that's why I'm currently advocating that my town add the requirement to regulate minor development to its new stormwater ordinance. The requirement would codify the necessity for managing the water about to be newly shed from smaller, mostly residential properties. And the way I'm doing this advocating is typical small town stuff. I send emails to the mayor and commissioners. I show up at zoning board meetings, and I also talk to local reporters. I found out the mayor has given the minor development additions to the zoning officer for review and to determine if there would be any hardships caused to the citizens of my town. And it's been 2 months now, and I don't know how long these things take, but this won't fade away from me. I'm going to keep my eye on it. Being an environmental watchdog is hyper local for me. It's where I believe I can make the biggest difference. So my thanks to Tri-County Sustainability for bringing us all together to expand our individual influences. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lorraine. And now we're going to continue with the rest of our agenda, and I'll hand it back over to Vicki.
Isla, thank you. Thank you for putting together such a wonderful panel full of energy and information. And on behalf of Gloucester County, I have to say I have a little bit of commissioner envy at the moment. We'll see if we can make that up. So now it's time to switch gears a bit. We're looking for an update from our partners at Sustainable Jersey. Tonight, Tracy Woods is here. She's pinch hitting for Lauren Skoronsky. And welcome, Tracy. What's up?
Hi. Thank you for having me. Can you make it so that I can share my screen? I just have something to show really quickly. Let's see. Oops, still showing as disabled. If it's not possible, that'll be all right. Oh, wait. Oh, there it is. Great. Okay. Here we go. So I have a couple of updates about things that are happening in Sustainable Jersey. And the first one is that we have a couple of application deadlines coming up. And the first one is for the EDF Climate Corps Fellows. And this is a project where a graduate student in sustainability studies comes, or well, they don't come physically, but they work with the municipality to help them do sustainability energy projects. And if you as a municipality have, not have had trouble getting applications started for incentive programs or working on tracking your energy use, this can be a really great way to move forward on that. The application deadline for that is April 7th, and you'll see that there is slots for municipalities and school districts in JCPL, South Jersey Gas, and New Jersey Natural as well. Also, the PSEG municipal grant cycle deadline is April 9th, so be aware of that. There's a link to that grant application on the Sustainable Jersey website. Also, our Sustainability Summit is May 17th through 21st, and registration is open for that now. You can click the link there and you'll see the full list of offerings for the Sustainability Summit. And then the last announcement is that on June 6th is the deadline for the next municipal certification cycle. So if you want to get in your submissions for this municipal cycle, the deadline is June 6th. Another thing I just wanted to really quickly share with you, this is from New Jersey's Economic Development Authority, a new program called New Jersey ZIP. They had a webinar last week. And first of all, the webinar was great and it's on their website, and they are having new incentives for mid to heavyweight vehicles with a focus on the Camden and Newark areas of New Jersey. I literally cut and paste their list of municipalities, and you'll see that there is towns on the list that are in this meeting, Collinswood, for example, and several of you. The incentives are very generous. So these are for electric vehicles that are larger than pickup trucks. And you can see that the link to that website is there. I just wanted to share that with you because it's a new program and not very many folks have heard about it yet. The application portal for that opens on April 6th. And during the webinar, they said that it was first come, first serve. And other really quick EV charging resources. I feel fairly confident that most of you know about the It Pays to Plug In program. But just so in case you don't, there's a link to that program as well. The funding resources for that are listed on their website as being largely exhausted, but they have said that they're still taking applications and they're looking for new buckets of funding to keep running that program. Another resource that maybe not everybody knows about is the municipal fleet EV resources from the BPU. This is resources for the purchase of electric vehicles for municipal fleets, and also for EV charging equipment for municipal fleets. One more resource I want to share with you all is that Sustainable Jersey has an alternative fuel vehicle procurement guide, which has a listing of electric vehicles that are available on state contract, and also other resources for electric vehicle adoption in New Jersey. And now Sean and Isla were telling me that the theme for tonight's meeting was policy and doing things in terms of municipal policy and statewide and county policy to move sustainability forward. And the two actions that made me think of in the Sustainable Jersey program are and I'm from the energy team, so I'm sure that there are other actions outside of the energy section of the program, but in the energy section, it's the Make Your Town EV Friendly Action, which includes ordinance work, and the Make Your Town Solar Friendly Action. So I'm just really quickly going to give an overview of those two actions and talk about how municipalities through policy can increase adoption of solar and electric vehicles in their communities. And the first action is Make Your Town EV Friendly. This action has a requirement that you update your municipal zoning ordinance to say which zones EV charging is a permitted accessory use. And of course, we're hoping that that will be all zones in the municipality. There's also a requirement for a plug-in electric vehicle ordinance that includes any space, EV charging space requirements, signage, protection, such as bollards and wheel stops for electric charging stations, lighting, and ADA accessibility. The action also requires first responder training for EVs. EVs are considered very safe, but they do have a different first responder protocol than internal combustion engines. And there are resources listed in that action for low cost options for training, as well as a whole array of resources for first responder training in that action. The action also requires that you have an EV charging outreach event, or an EV outreach event, and there are lots of options for that. One really great option is participating in National Drive Electric Week. And there's a link for that organization there on the slide. And, one thing that, one thing that is included in that EV action that I just want to make sure you're all aware of is that there's a guide for how to write EV friendly ordinances for municipalities, and that can really be useful to municipalities that are going through the ordinance process. And if your municipality is interested in doing EV ordinances and you need a place to start, you can reach out to me and I'd be happy to help you get going on the EV ordinance process. Another action that's very similar to make your town EV friendly, but is more on the solar side, is make your town solar friendly. And this also has a adopt a zoning ordinance for solar and requires that you amend your permitting fees. What we're suggesting that municipalities do is employ a flat solar fee as opposed to charging by the number of panels, because modern solar panels don't require the same kind of, they don't require a type of inspection that has to do with the size of the solar array. And a lot of municipalities have these sort of older permitting schedules that charge by the size of the solar array. So we're just asking towns to look at that, their permitting ordinance and see what the fees are and move to a flat model. Again, there's first responder training options included in that action. And if you find that you need help with that action, I'm available for that as well. And I'm going to put my email address in the chat for this Zoom call. Thank you so much for your time.
Tracy, thank you. That was really informative, capsulized, terrific, thanks. Let's bring David Steinberg into the conversation now. And David, will you give us a quick update, please, on the Helping Towns project?
Sure.
I'll make the connection here to the fact that Sustainable Jersey just recognized the Towns Helping Towns project with its collaboration award. Congratulations, David.
Well, the congratulations is not to me, it's to all the members of my team who actually did the heavy lifting to make it happen. Essentially, what we do is we provide mentors that will help other towns to be able to help them become certified either bronze or silver. We've got a number of towns that have achieved silver. We'll be more than happy to reach out to other towns that are bronze in order to be able to move up one notch as well. Part of the award, which involves an honorarium of $200, and I don't like to turn down money, but I don't know what to do with it. So I decided the best thing to do is turn it over to Tri-County Sustainability and add that, because I'm sure there are lots of programs that they could use an extra $200 for. So it'd be my pleasure to be able to do that. We're getting ready to start consideration for what we're going to be doing for 2021. COVID, of course, has been an issue. But one of the reasons why we got the award is because during 2019 and 2020, we helped 10 new towns become certified. So let me give you a couple of quick stats. The Tri-County area has 101 towns, of which 34 of them are now certified either bronze or silver. So we got a lot of work to do, and I need some volunteers. So I'm going to put my contact information in the chat, and if anybody would like to volunteer, I'd love to have the opportunity to be able to talk to you. My contact information is going to be put in there just as soon as I stop talking here. But I'm very excited about this program because we're reaching out not only to other towns in our Tri-County area, but I've had the opportunity to be able to talk to 2 or 3 people from towns in other counties as well. So what we're doing works. It's tried, it's proven, and I'm very pleased that we've got a really fabulous team that's been able to do a lot of the heavy lifting on that. And with that, in the interest of time, I'm going to pass.
Well, David, thank you. Thank you for your summary. Thank you for your leadership in that effort. And thanks, Tracy. So now we're going to turn the page and talk to Mr. Energy and Transportation, Patrick McDevitt. Patrick, will you lead us down that path, please?
Sure. Thanks so much, Vicki. So I was super excited to hear from Tracy at Sustainable Jersey about all the other EV incentives that are happening Shockingly, there was even a couple that I wasn't aware of. So we'll definitely be following up with her about those. We did form a working group in TCS for the several towns that are pursuing electric charging station grants right at the moment. So we will be scheduling a meeting in April with the DEP folks to talk about how we can expedite the process for our member towns. So if any other member towns want to get involved, please keep in touch with us about that, and we'll get you on the schedule. But in keeping with our rail subject of tonight, we're going to hear from Bill Ritzler is with us tonight, and he's from the Delaware Valley Association of Rail Passengers. So Bill, are you ready to speak?
Yes, thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. First of all, thank you to Patrick McDevitt and Sean Millen for having me speak this evening. What I came to speak about this evening is the idea of proposing an initiative to establish a public transportation advocacy organization specific to the South Jersey region. There are organizations that are statewide. I respect what they do, but a lot of the time, the needs of South Jersey can be lost in the larger context of the greater needs. So what we're proposing is to eventually work toward creating an organization, much like an organization in Philadelphia called Transit Forward Philadelphia. And rather than being a membership organization, that is actually an organization that is a coalition of other organizations. And what they're able to do is leverage their combined strength to drive public policy. A little bit about DVARP, just to kind of let you know where we are. We've been around since 1972. We were formed with a club format, and then we were eventually incorporated as a 501c3 organization in 1996. So next year will actually be our 50th year of existence. Our revenue streams are strictly membership dues and also donations from our members and other interested parties. We don't get grants from any foundations or anything like that. And we are an all-volunteer organization. Right now, we're in the process of working with the folks in the Yes to GCL effort. And hats off to both Joseph Russell and Paige Bathurst and everybody else in the organization who's working to make that project come to fruition. Their social media savvy far outweighs mine, and I have to say hats off to that. So going back to the idea of creating this organization, as I said, there really isn't a robust voice advocating for the public transportation needs in South Jersey. And even though we are rail passengers and we specifically deal with issues regarding rail passenger circumstances, service levels, fares, system safety, sustainability, etc. The way we see this organization and the way it's structured in Philly is that it actually encompasses all of the public transportation modes. We see this as a marathon and not a sprint. This is going to take a while to build up. It's fabulous that Tri-County Sustainability exists because there's an embedded group of folks who are already like-minded in the environmental realm who can provide support without having to further organize on that effort. At some point in the future, various members are going to get together and we're going to have a discussion as to how to proceed on that. As the various interested parties who would like to see something like that come about. Finally, we wanted to say, because this is a longer term effort, we just want to make the point that, supporting GCL and making that happen is job one. So that's what we're focused on primarily. And we hope that, in the event that we can actually get an organization to come together and support transit in general for other things besides the GCL, including the Atlantic City Rail Line, potentially maybe a bus system redesign like that the SEPTA is going to undertake shortly, and that New Jersey Transit is planning for the Newark division up in North Jersey. All of that would be good, and we believe it would enhance the value and the use of public transportation in the region. So that's pretty much my discussion.
That was great. Thanks a lot, Bill. Appreciate the information, and we'll look forward to hearing more about your group. I'll go ahead and send this back to Vicky, so we'll go on to the next topic.
Thank you, Patrick, and thank you, Bill. All right, so now we're going to turn to Marty Levin. And Marty, why don't you start us on the conversation about some food waste initiatives in our area?
Thank you, Vicki. Good to see so many people here tonight, and what a rich conversation we've had so far. And there was a mention or two about a compost project, and also about the regenerative agriculture. And I wanted to report, first of all, about an event we had just last week where we showed the movie Kiss the Ground. If you haven't seen it or you're not familiar with it, I highly recommend it. This was done in partnership with the folks from Sustainability Now, and we had over 80 people show up to watch the movie and participate in a very rich conversation following the movie with the actual executive director of the Kiss the Ground Foundation from California. So that's something I definitely, if you're interested in learning more about regenerative agriculture, that's a great place to start. Okay, now I'd like to introduce Joan Brennan. And Joan Brennan's from Merchantville, a town that's close to my heart. My kids grew up in Merchantville and went to school with some of her kids. And she's been doing some incredible work with this group called Incredible Edible Merchantville. And I recently attended the annual luncheon where they gave awards, the Sustainable Jersey luncheon, and they were recognized for the Creativity and Innovation Award. I'd like to have Joan tell us a little bit more about the project that she's been working on these past few years. Joan, are you available?
I'm here.
Great.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak on Incredible Edible Merchantville, and I'll be following in Lorraine's footsteps, and in the interest of time, read my presentation because it's been a lot over the last 3 years. In any event, in May of 2018, I saw a TED Talk on how we can eat our landscapes out of England. Made me think more about the future and how changing our approach to land stewardship can make a real impact, even in a community small like Merchantville. I've been a nurse for over 40 years, and I've lived in Merchantville for 35 years. We've raised our 7 kids here, and 17 of our 21 grandchildren live in the community. Looking at the future, I started to talk about a friend with it to see if they'd be interested in undertaking an innovative project like Incredible Edible. I figured it was a simple way to make a personal step towards improving the environment, providing food for those in need, educating residents about healthy eating, and securing a future sustainability of Merchantville as a community. I wanted to model it after this TED Talk, after Pam Warhurst. She had a mission of creating a kind, confident, and connected community through the power of food. The beauty of Incredible Edible and this program, there's an Incredible Edible network that's very supportive of any community that wants to do something like that, is that it's a shared experience, one size fits all. We're a very small town, 5/8 of a square mile, about 3,500 residents. We don't have municipal employees who are paid to develop and manage projects like this. So it seemed like a good fit for us. It openly accepts and encourages all sorts of community contributions, the willingness in the project to let people who have creative food ideas and growing ideas take small actions and pilot their little program under our umbrella, as long as it fulfills one of our 3 foundational plates, seemed to make sense. So it began. We wrote a proposal in July of 2018 and presented it to mayor and council. And they asked us to exist in town under the Green Team umbrella. That September, the seeds were planted at our first meeting. It was attended by 6 residents, and they were very enthusiastic about moving forward with this proposal. We called that group our core working group, and we decided our mission would be to nurture environmental stewardship, encourage a culture of wellness, and promote food justice through edible landscape. I was fortunate because I work at a school in Philadelphia for disabled children, and my assistant there is Keith Monahan, who is a master gardener formerly with GMO Free New Jersey and seed librarian for the South Jersey Seed Circle Library. Also, I think the Horticultural Society. He was very helpful in getting me answers about establishing habitats, researching plants that were native plants, supporting pollinators, predator habitat, soil testing, and how to go about getting grant monies, which we haven't done successfully yet, but we're working on. Organization and promotion and funding were key goals in this first year. Our meetings were advertised. We had a really strong social presence. I've personally have managed, administered a community website in town since 1994. So I was able to throw up a page and get some information out there about it, and also managed Facebook pages for Incredible Edible, and then a group page where we publish our minutes for our meetings and things like that. We have a Twitter feed and Instagram as well. And I'll post all these things in the chat as far as contacts and information at the end of speaking. The buy-in from the community grew by the spring of 2019. Our membership probably increased to 10 or 12 people, and people were interested through social media. We undertook a few small action projects. It's lucky because I have so many children and I'm able to grab them and nab them for volunteer projects and say, you want to do something here, think of something and do it to support this project. So we grew beanstalks and a pollinator garden around tennis courts at one of our parks. We developed a sunflower plot along our rails to trails. We have about 1.5 mile path of rails to trails that goes through our community between Camden and Pennsauken, and it has a greenway on both sides. So there's plenty of space to use for planting. We had projects developing insect hotels, things that we thought would be beneficial for outreach to school communities. And then just lots of other things that we thought of doing. We supported regular programs like the Daffodil Fest that we have in town, selling plants and getting the word out there. And also we've had, for the past 5 years, a market. So we tried to show up there and send out information. Also reached out to a couple of community businesses. We have a brewery in town which is run by somebody with a horticultural degree, and he grows hops on the side of his building every year. So it was just a natural fit for us. We had students who planted gardens, neighbors who shared their gardens, and then residents and businesses who distributed their harvest to a local community pantry. So we basically, since 2019, succeeded in connecting our community through a garden to plate project to sustain the future for the community and wellness in the community. Last month, we were fortunate enough to receive that award from Sustainable Jersey, and our town was fortunate to achieve bronze status with Sustainable Jersey. And that project was a project that we, as Incredible Edible Merchantville, worked on quite a bit with Dorothy Foley, one of our members, to contribute so that we could achieve that bronze status this year. Our goals for this coming year are to promote outdoor learning, nutritional security, and physical well-being, provide safe outdoor opportunities for learning and exercise as the pandemic continues, access to healthy food for the community, and donations to food pantries, provide recreation and stress reduction through gardening to benefit mental health, emotional and physical well-being. We're going to start reporting with our sustainability partners. We're lucky to be a small community that does already have well-established sustainability partners in our garden club that's been around for many years, our Shade Tree Commission. I think we've been a tree city in New Jersey for over 40 years. and the green team. So we have great partners to do that. We are establishing a sustainable landscape registry. And we have certain outreach programs that we're going to do this year to achieve the community learning and business plate of the Incredible Edible Network model. Some of the things that we're doing, again, food security, the pantry partnership we have, participating in the farmers market for education. We have an organic community garden that 2 residents got a grant for, and were able to start developing last year. And they'll have, I believe, 8 plots in the organic garden this year. And they started a composting project this year that will be built out, that is built out this month, I think. We have a program for monarch butterfly, milkweed, spotted lanternfly initiative to use milkweed to be able to deter the spotted lanternflies in town, and we're doing that in conjunction with the Shade Tree Commission. One of our big projects this year, which is not really big action because these are all really small actions that involve collaboration with other groups, is to develop a horticultural therapy program to work with veterans with PTSD, because community partnerships like this are a big part of Incredible Edible, and there's research that's shown that therapeutic nature of horticulture has helped them to relieve depression and reduce stress, improve their nutrition, things like that. In learning, we collaborate with the school. The school now has a junior green team. And unfortunately, because of COVID, they weren't allowed to really participate much last year, but we're looking forward to this partnership this year. We have an environmental series that Dorothy Foley has run for the last 2 years, where we show films. And we, this year, are going to establish a seed library right outside our community library, which is located at our school. So we'll have a little library there for people to exchange seeds, as well as having plant exchanges as we do through the course of the year. As far as business partnerships, we've reached out to quite a few, and they pretty much support our efforts to provide food security in the community. So we're a small town. We have sort of a west and an east end aspect to that. And so we look forward to having lots of extra produce to be shared this year to go out to the community through our business relationships. And then a couple of other things we're doing this year. We made a presentation to Borough Council about a week ago, requesting funding, requesting support for any kind of approval we want for signage and things like that, guidance and direction, collaboration on developing uniform or specific signage and surround enclosures for some of our habitat gardens and everything like that. Right now, they sort of exist in free space along the greenway of rails to trails, but we want to identify them a little bit more than we have in the past. We did buy some signage, some yard signage last year that we gave out to anybody who had a garden or any of the pollinator gardens. And so that's about where we are this year. We created a cute little video that we showed at the Sustainable Jersey Awards. And I will share the link to that on YouTube with you at the end as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Joan. You can see why you folks won that creativity and innovation award. That was really something. And hopefully some of the other folks may have been inspired by some of your ideas and might be interested in getting in touch with you. So if you want to put your contact information in the chat, that would be helpful too. Right. Now I'd like to turn to Gina Cole from the Mount Laurel Green Team. That's another area that's close to my heart since I live in Mount Laurel now, and I am part of that green team. And Gina's been working on a plan to really promote composting, and I think she's been working with a few other towns. So Gina, are you available?
Yeah, Yes, thanks, Marty. Can everybody hear me?
Do you want to listen to Gina or do you want me to turn her
Yes.
off?
So as Marty said, we are interested in composting. As you may know, about 25% of the waste that goes to the landfill is food waste. That's the largest category currently, and we really need to stop that cycle. And the best way is through composting, because we're losing those vital nutrients that need to be returned to the soil. So we created a very basic survey. We really actually just want to know, first off, how many residents already compost, because there's a lot of gardeners out there and they probably already compost. How many residents would be willing to compost if they knew how to compost? And that's where we would step in and do an educational program for them. And then thirdly, how many residents would compost if there was a service available? Currently, there is no services available in South Jersey for residential composting pickup. So we would like to just get that information out there to get some statistics around composting. And we included the zip code so we can sort for multiple towns. So I posted the link to the survey in the chat forum, and any town can use this because it will sort it by the zip code and send it to you. We would like to cross promote this so we can get a lot of traction. So think about your township pages, your green team pages, your school pages, the newspaper pages. These are all the types of organizations we would like to cross promote. And I'm hoping to also get our communications director to actually write up a press release for this so we get some real good visibility so we can get strong statistics behind this. Thanks.
Thank you, Gina. And again, hats off to both Merchantville and Mount Laurel, who both got their first certification at the bronze level this year. So, and now I think I'll turn it back to Vicki. Thanks.
Thanks, Marty, and thank you, Joan and Gina. Now we've got to move right along, but we're looking to Bill Johnson to talk about the newly formed Environmental Justice Committee. And Bill is from TCS and also Embracing Race. Bill?
Yeah, thanks, Vicki. And I'm actually also a Consid resident, and I say that with pride because there's a lot of good things coming from Consid, but I'm really happy to hear Lorraine and Joe Russell today. So on to the update for the Environmental Justice Committee. We're continuing to monitor the progress of the new cumulative impact bill. It's NJ2 S232, and it's a bill which would deny permits for power plants and landfills and sewage treatment plants in really distressed areas. And so it's really a groundbreaking bill. It's a good bill. And if you watch the sacrifice zone, something like a plant which was affecting the ironbound community in Newark, that probably would not have happened. The issue with the bill is that even if they passed the law, they still haven't made the rules up. So there's been about the bill was signed about 6 months ago. They're still making rules up. So there's until they do, they can't really enforce it. And it could be somebody could come in and put a permit in or apply for a permit, and it could pass in during this window. So that's something that we're really keeping an eye on to make sure that doesn't happen. Hopefully they'll intervene and put some type of a rule in place until they do get the final rules in place, so they won't be able to do that. The other thing we're doing with the Environmental Justice Committee is we are partnering with the Green Faith Circle group. We're trying, I'm looking into partnering with other groups too, just to kind of see where we fit into this whole really important area of environmental justice. So yeah, that's it for me, Vicki.
Thank you so much, Bill. We all want to monitor progress under that groundbreaking legislation. Thank you. Okay, now we're going to turn to Sean for some quick updates on outreach. Sean?
Okay. Thanks, Vicki. I want to bring in our friend Colette Stanistari from the New Jersey Brownfields Assistance Center at NJIT. Colette and Patrick and I had a great conversation about 2 weeks ago. This is New Jersey. Everything, there's paved roads and abandoned strip malls everywhere in all of our towns, and there are so many great programs that can help us with that. And so Colette's going to give us a really quick introduction to her program, and Tri-County and Colette and her group are going to be available to do a deeper dive conversation with anybody on this line who'd be interested in the future date. So I'm sorry if that was long-winded. Over to you, Colette.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Sean, and thanks for inviting me here tonight. As Sean mentioned, I'm Colette Santasiri. I'm the Executive Director of the New Jersey Brownfields Assistance Center at the New Jersey Institute of Technology. And I'm just going to take a couple of minutes to explain who we are and what we do. But first, for those of you who might not know what a brownfield is, let me explain that. New Jersey state law defines a brownfield as any former or current commercial or industrial site that is currently vacant or underutilized, and on which there has been or there is suspected to have been a discharge of a contaminant. So brownfields include old mills and factories and junkyards, those legacies of our industrial past. But in addition, brownfields also include closed gas stations and auto repair shops, former dry cleaners, and other vacant commercial properties that many communities have. So these properties can be troublesome to communities for many reasons, including that they tend to stay vacant for a long time because many developers and investors have shied away from these sites because of that contamination or because of the perception of contamination. And that's especially true in communities that have a weak real estate market. These properties oftentimes pose a challenge to local governments and nonprofits because most do not have the in-house knowledge or resources, including funding, to tackle the challenges posed by these properties. So that's why I created the New Jersey Brownfields Assistance Center at NJIT. This is the first of its kind and only center that solely focuses on and serves New Jersey. It is a free, let me repeat that, a free resource to county and local governments and nonprofits. So the mission of the New Jersey Brownfields Assistance Center at NJIT is to educate and engage communities around brownfield issues, to provide free guidance and resources to county and local governments and nonprofits challenged with navigating the redevelopment process, to develop tools, strategies, and resources, create partnerships, and provide subject matter experts to communities looking for technical assistance, and really to show communities that these properties can be transformed into community assets. So this center is located within a university, but it's not an academic endeavor. The center's team of professionals includes planners, engineers, environmental scientists, and social scientists who all have experience helping hundreds of communities across the country. And we've brought that experience to focus on New Jersey's challenges. So here's how we can help you, and remember that our assistance is free. We have a resource center that includes a website containing many tools. So for example, we created infographics that explain the New Jersey regulatory process, the steps a property navigates from determining contamination to ultimately cleaning up the site. That's not easily understandable. So we created these infographics that anybody could view. And another feature of our Brownfields Assistance Center is what we call our help desk. You can reach us by phone or email at any time with any question you have about brownfields, from what is a brownfield to where do I get funding to when's EPA coming out with their next round of brownfield grants, to whatever question you have. Call us, email us, we'll answer that question. But sometimes the assistance you need goes beyond answering a quick question. Or you may not know what kind of assistance your community needs, only that you have challenges, brownfields challenges. That's okay, contact us. Through the course of a conversation, we'll get an understanding of what the challenges your community is facing, and then we'll suggest ways in which we can help you with our free assistance. So the key takeaway here is that we are here, we're available, contact us at any time. So real quickly, let me give you a couple of examples or a few examples of some brownfield challenges that your community might face and how we can provide assistance to you. So perhaps you're getting certification in the Sustainable Jersey program and you're not sure how to navigate the various actions in the brownfields category. We can walk you through that. You know, for instance, if your community wants to develop a brownfields inventory and you just don't know how to go about doing that, give us a call. We'll explain that to you. Maybe having trouble getting the attention of developers. We can give you some strategies on how to market your brownfield sites. Maybe have a lack of funding to undertake the assessment and the redevelopment, the cleanup and the redevelopment of sites. We can provide you guidance on the many different sources of funding available. Maybe you have a site and you had a consultant take samples, analyze them, and give you a report that explains what the contamination is on site. But again, you don't have the in-house expertise to understand what that all means. We'll review that report. We'll interpret it for you. Again, we have environmental scientists on staff who know all of that. Or maybe you're just new to brownfields and you just don't know where to start and then how to proceed. We'll sit down with you. We'll create a roadmap for you that gives you all the step-by-step instructions and on all the things you'll need to do to get your brownfield site assessed and cleaned up and redeveloped. And then we will help you navigate all those steps. So these are just some examples of the many, many different ways that we can help you. And again, our assistance is tailored towards your particular needs. So please do not hesitate to contact us. If Sean hasn't done it already, I will put my contact information in the chat along with our website address. So, you know, again, please reach out to us anytime. And we really look forward to the deeper dive that we're going to be offering to all of you. Thanks
awesome.
again, Sean, for inviting me.
Oh, thank you so much, Colette. And the thing that stuck out with me was that it's not just actual brownfields, like a contaminated site, like a former gas station. It's just the perception, right? So if people just think there's something wrong with that site and it's empty for years, you can get your help to develop that. And we reached out to our mayor here in Oakland, and he was on board. He wants to meet with you. So again, we'll schedule something for the whole group on a deeper dive in that. Thank you so much, Colette.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so switching gears, I want to bring in Randy Rothmel from our partners at ANJEC. We talked a lot about food waste earlier today. And so now Randy's gonna give a real quick update on some of the cool initiatives he's working on with some other partners on food waste. Randy?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Sean, for inviting me. I'm gonna keep this really brief because this is really an initiative that I'm just starting to get involved with. So it's just kind of kicking off the ground. I just wanted to make everyone aware that the New Jersey Climate Change Alliance, they have formed an organic work group to develop a sustainable organic material management plan for the state of New Jersey. And as I already mentioned, you know, like 25 up to 25% of the municipal solid waste stream that goes to landfill currently is food waste, as that's already been mentioned. And just some other things, for background, the Food Waste Reduction Act, which was passed in 2017, has a goal of reducing food waste by 50% by 2020. And the New Jersey DEP has actually drafted a food waste reduction plan in 2019, and that's currently being finalized. And I'll put a link to where you can actually look at that draft plan in the chat as soon as I'm finished talking. In 2020, there has also been the disposal ban legislation that was passed that requires large generators of food waste, which means you have to generate 1 ton of food waste a week to source separate their compost or otherwise recycle their food waste, provided that there's a facility within 25 miles of them. And this actually will become effective in October 2021. So all large food waste developers will have to comply with that. So this organic work group that has formed, they have put together a visioning white paper with proposals that has been approved by the Alliance Steering Committee. And the committee consists of the New Jersey Climate Change Alliance, Sustainable Jersey, the Association of New Jersey Recyclers, and the New Jersey Composting Council. And the goal is that they're going to have various focal areas that are going to be splitting out to discuss certain aspects of food waste. And these focal areas include food waste reduction and donation, food waste management in schools, community scale composting, large scale organic recycling infrastructure, and sustainable animal manure management. They already put out a general survey to everyone who's part of the group and the larger group to look at to see what barriers people see in these different focal areas and what can be done to overcome some of these barriers. So they're just going to be starting their work sessions on these 5 focal areas starting in April, beginning next week. And I hope to be partaking in the community scale composting and the large scale organic work group. So that's all I really have for now, because as I said, these work sessions are just starting to begin, but there'll be more updates later on. So thank you so much for inviting me, Sean.
That's awesome, Randy. Thank you. And, keep us posted, because you're our eyes and ears in that, and food waste is obviously such a big part of the problem. So awesome work. Keep it up. Next, we're going to switch. It's time for our Green Faith update. So we're going to bring in our buddy June Hammond to talk about what the Green Faith Circle of South Jersey has been doing.
Oh my goodness, this is amazing that, here we are sitting at home with our quarantine, and there's astounding things happening. This is just really amazing. I just want you all to give yourself a big hand. I think it's fantastic. So Green Faith is a global group. It's a international organization with a faith-based perspective on our environmental stewardship. It's a slightly different perspective. And the issues that we are dealing with here in South Jersey, we have a Green Faith Circle that we've established just about a little over a year ago. It's a semi-autonomous group of currently about 9 faith communities. And we are open to individuals or any other community that is willing to look at the environmental and social justice issues that we're dealing with from a faith perspective. So we have a meeting coming up, and I'm only going to take a couple of seconds, although I could go on April 18th at, thank you, Sean, April 18th at 3:30. And if you would put my contact information in there, if you're interested, please be in touch with me and I'll send you the invitation and some background information on what Green Faith is all about. We do have 3 current working groups, all information that you are, issues that you're all working on. One is about food and food waste and regenerative agriculture and plant-based diets. That's one of our working groups. We have a working group on plastics reduction, and we also have an environmental justice group. And a number of people here on this call have attended or been part of these, our local circle. So I'm not going to talk any more about it, but if you are interested, we are reaching out to local faith communities or individuals who have a faith perspective. And we'll be happy to talk with you and welcome you and bring our perspective back to our faith communities if we're part of faith communities. So thank you for inviting me, and I'll see you all soon.
That's awesome. Thank you, June. And thank you. That's a very important constituency that I think is sometimes overlooked by those of us in the environmental / sustainability community. So thank you for the work you're doing there. And Vicki, I think that is it. We're going to send it back to you now.
Well, amazing, absolutely amazing. We're only 30 minutes overtime. But I am just so impressed by what's gone on here this evening. This would typically be the point in the agenda where we would have the opportunity to do some rapid fire conversation. I think we can do that maybe just for a very few moments, but we really need to let everybody go to sleep. So if we can, I'm going to ask if maybe, is it Sean and Deb, are you going to just monitor your hands just for a few moments? And then if you'll raise your hand.
I think Deb and I will try to manage. Again, we don't have a lot of time. We're already 30 minutes over. And I'd also like to say, I think we all recognize that we had some friends on the call tonight that had some opposition to the rail line. By no means are we trying to cut you short there. We're 40 minutes over. So we offer to you a platform in the future where we will certainly work with you to make sure your voices are heard. We value your opinions. We do. So let's guys, I think 2 minutes. Let's go. Anybody have anything they want to get in there real quick?
I see at least one hand. Anybody else?
All right, Ryan, you are unmuted.
All right, thanks. I don't want to take up your time. If you guys are going to reach out, if Sean is going to reach out, that's fine. I'll accept that invitation, and I won't take your time. Have a good night, everybody.
Thanks, Ryan.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you so much. We can continue a lot of this conversation, of course, in the Discord platform. We hope that you'll keep in touch with us. As has already been mentioned, there will be a recording of this meeting. The information from the chat will also be shared with everybody. And was anybody going to add anything else in the way of last thoughts?
I do not see any hands.
Okay. Well, we can't thank you enough for your patience, your endurance, and your contributions. Thank you all so much. Our next meeting will be in 2 months at the end of May. And you'll see that schedule at the bottom of the agenda for tonight's meeting. And of course, it's all about collaboration, conversation, networking, and we look forward to keeping in touch throughout the next couple of months before we meet again. Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
All right,